started writing the film in '95, but at the time, it turned out that it wasn't technically possible to do what I wanted to do. So I just literally put the project in a drawer, forgot about it. About 4 years ago, I got it out and dusted it off. I said, let's find out if it's possible now.
You are not in Kansas anymore. You are on Pandora.
Avatar is really an action-adventure fantasy that takes place in a rich, lush rainforest environment. Kind of the Garden of Eden with teeth and claws. Jake's on a really interesting journey.
He's a wounded former Marine.
He's paralyzed and he's confined to a wheelchair.
And he's granted the opportunity to go fill in for his brother that was working on a planet called Pandora.
There's one tiny human colony, and everyone here works for a corporation that is mining.
This is why we're here. It's what pays for the whole party. Now those savages are threatening our whole operation.
Jake is supposed to be a bridge between the indigenous population, the Na'vi, and the humans. So on Pandora, he can control and operate an avatar body.
An avatar is a remotely controlled body, which is the DNA of the alien, DNA of me mixed together. My thoughts and personality is channeled into a synthetically grown body.
This is great.
Through a series of circumstances, he meets Natiri.
There's something about this avatar that absolutely captures her attention.
The Na'vi recognize in him a kind of bravery and clearness of purpose, so he becomes a social experiment.
The Na'vi put him through every test. If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And the Na'vi totally believe that.
To become hunter, you must choose your own ikram, and he must choose you.
When?
When you are ready.
Jake's first line we hear in the movie, he says, when I was alone in the VA hospital with a hole blown through my life.
I started having these dreams of flying. I was free.
The Banshee sequence is his chance to do that. One of the tests every young warrior must pass as a Na'vi is making a connection and a bond with the Banshee.
How will I know if he chooses me?
He will try to kill you.
Outstanding. And that's test one.
When Jake does this, Natiri is exuberant and joins him in flight. The two of them fly together in this lyrical montage.
That moment when they're flying together for the first time, it's my favorite moment in the whole film. This is not an animated film. It's captured performance.
You don't just want the motion, you want the emotion of somebody, and for that you need a performance.
These actors did not just stand at a lectern and do a voice part, and then animators went off for the next 2 years and created the entire physicality of their performance.
The most exciting thing is, it is my performance. This thing walks and talks and acts like me. Let's dance. It's my interpretation.
Every tiny bit of the performance that you see on the screen was created by the actors. They had to run, they had to leap, they had to fight, they had to do all the things that you see them doing in the film. They were doing it physically. They weren't just doing a voice performance.
I trusted you!
Trust me now, please.
God! You not be your happy! You will never be one of the people!
Some of the limitations of past work in CGI was letting the eyes be a window into the soul. In our movie, you need to make a connection for it to work.
Could we create a computer-generated character that would be completely believable as photoreality? That was our challenge from the get-go. That was the challenge when I wrote this 14 years ago.
In 2005, Jim said, I think we're close enough where if we could push the technology, we could tell this story that we always wanted to tell.
Performance captures a technique where you try to capture the performance of an actor and translate it to a digital character. You put an actor in a suit with markers on the suit.
We put you in a spatial volume.
Using a lot of cameras all around to record the motions of all the markers.
The computer is creating a real-time moving skeleton of you. From that skeleton, you now can drive a computer-generated character. We came up with a number of methodologies for shooting some of these big aerial scenes. Step one was to create the flight paths. We used the volume for everything. We made little wire models of the various creatures, put markers on them so the system would recognize them as that creature. And then we just go out there and fly them around, like a couple of kids with a toy airplane.
While we would see up on the monitors a real-time representation of this flight path.
And that's how all this stuff starts, with an idea of action.
Even some of the creatures on this film are at least roughed out in a performance capture stage. Jim was working with some of the performers to work out creature movements, in a sense kind of puppeteering.
Once we had the flight paths defined, we would bring in the actors.
And we'd ask the actors to perform to the timing of the flight path. So if their Banshee banked to the right, they'd have to move in the right timing for that right bank. And we had all these methods for rehearsing so that they could get the timing just right.
Say fly!
Fly!
It took time, it took training. It took time for us to figure out, how do you do that? How do you fly a Banshee?
It's kind of like a mesh of writing Bo Derek style and jockey. So it's like you're Bo Derek at the Kentucky Derby.
We came up with this whole kind of aggressive, athletic feeling. We treated it more like a board sport, where you had to hit a certain posture, a certain pose to stay balanced on it, to get your center of gravity in the right place. My philosophy on this was they're supposed to be flying the creature. They're supposed to be initiating the action. They needed to be in control. So we created a manually operated gimbal rig that they could balance on.
One person would be on a ladder for eye lines, and we'd place a monitor in front of them, so they could see their point of view as if they were really flying through this space.
And they learned how to fly these creatures. When you see Sam and Zoe on their Banshees, they look like they've lived on a Banshee.
And it's after we have that Jim goes back out into the volume without the cast, and he does his camera work. He picks up our virtual camera, and he can now make himself a helicopter that's flying in sync with the Banshees. He could be parented, flying right on a Banshee to get a point of view. And this is how we would create the shots for our sequences. Not only are we capturing their movement on the Banshee, we're also capturing their facial performances. Because ultimately, even these moments that are about such great exhilaration, it's about the facial expressions.
The thing we were worried about most was this, because this is where movies live and breathe, in the tight close-up. The part that we had to create during the making of this film was the facial image-based performance capture technology that allowed what the actors did to 100% translate to what you see the characters doing. So we came up with this idea that we would actually have a little boom, and on the end of that boom there'd be a little tiny camera, and it would image the face while the actor was working. So it captured every nuance of how their lips moved and how all their facial muscles moved, how their eyes moved.
What we're trying to do is take what the actor is doing emotionally in any given scene and to translate that into the characters. And we do that by using their muscles. It gives us a way to correspond emotion to what you actually see expressed in the character's face.
It was a very, very exciting time where we realized that we had rounded that corner and that we had true human emotion captured and performed by a non-human character. Always trying to push the envelope. This time we were trying to push the envelope and it pushed back. And then we pushed harder. And it took a long time because it doesn't look like anything you've seen before. Let's go! I know that we were able to accomplish taking from the actors their beautiful, amazing performances and preserving them in their computer-generated characters. And that was my biggest goal on this film.
Yeah, baby, I got this!